Hey folks, Gary here. Do you know that question, why? It's something kids ask all the time. Why? Why? Knowing why can make all the difference. And so with that in mind, we're looking at Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 20 to 25. And it says, in the future, your children will ask you, they'll ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that the Lord our God has commanded us to obey? Why? Why should we obey all these laws, all these commands, all these decrees? Why? I used to live in this town. It was a great town. It was called the city of Airdrie. It was a town when I started living there. And they had this ridiculous speed limit in the residential sections. It was 30 kilometers an hour. And at the time, that was unheard of. That was slow. Slow. That was a slow speed limit. And so when people would move there, they go, why do we have to drive so slow in these areas? Well, because it didn't make a lot of sense. The roads are fairly wide. Why do we have to drive this slow? Well, if you understood that this little city, this little town of Airdrie, at that time was the youngest city in Canada, like per capita. Like if you took the average age of the people who lived there, it was the youngest. There was a lot of young families, a lot of little kids. And when you understood there was a lot of little kids, then you understood why the speed limit was so low. And it was easy to drive that speed limit afterwards because you didn't want to hurt anybody. You understood why. And so the answer is this. Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. The Lord did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land that he has sworn to our ancestors. So that's part of the reason why God has been so good to us. And the Lord our God commanded us to obey all these decrees, to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives. There's another reason why we want to continue this relationship with God, right? He can continue to preserve our lives. And he has done this to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands the Lord has given us. Why do we obey all the things God's told us to do? Why do we study his word? Well, the reason why is this. When we read his Bible, we read the Bible and we study it, we understand how we can live with God and live with God really well. If God says not to do things, you know why he says that? Because those things will drive us away from God. They'll pull us away from God. They'll cause division between us and God. Well, that's not going to work well for our relationship with him. And if we do the things God has told us to do in Scripture, like follow the things he says, do this, do that, and the other thing, that draws us closer to him and closer in our relationship with him. So the reason for all the laws and decrees, the reason why we have Scripture and the do's and don'ts, is so our relationship with God can get better and better and better and better. And that's a great reason why to study his word.